So, who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who was the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick? Everybody say you mean Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that out there living they dream? Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that still smoking all the green? Lesbo and the Bean. Come on, y'all.
Welcome back. We have had a hell of a time. I just gotta say, here, if you're subscribing to LaTB, you know why we broke it into two shows. Because we said, at any time, a cricket could fart, and all of a sudden this fight would end up falling out. And guess what? It has. Our worst nightmares have come true. But a phoenix out of the ashes, we're arguably getting a quality level fight for the belt. There is officially a script. We actually waited here. Quickly, Lesbo, how do you feel after the presser that we held off our show to give our last final thoughts on the main card itself?
We did it not to jinx Khabib Ferguson.
Right.
It was the fourth time the fight's been made. We were all walking on eggshells. Everyone wants to see two of the greatest of all time fight each other. We love both fighters. We love them. We were everybody, especially diehards though. This one was for the diehards.
Yeah.
A freak accident, or was it? Whatever. I always think fishy on everything. Tony Ferguson hurts his knee.
At a UFC event, scheduled event, on equipment,
doing like press conference stuff.
Rented and or owned by UFC in
I
UFC's
think
care.
Completely tore his LCL or just
LCL.
just
Torn off of
attached
the
it from
flag.
bone.
He's been on a few interviews, Tony Ferguson that is, and said that he's now had MRIs and x-rays and stuff and showing his LCL just flapping in the wind. It's completely off of the bone.
We waited till the last minute not to jinx it, and then this is what I was thinking. Did we jinx it by not just doing the breakdown?
I feel like a lot of professionals did the same thing, because there's a lot of people that I listen to all in the Twitterverse and stuff that were like, I had 4 or 5 pieces ready to go fight week. I wanted to hold off and now they don't matter. Now I have to break down. Max Holloway stepping in, having the biggest balls in the land other than Colby Covington, because that's officially in Brazil against Dos Anjos. Because
that's true too.
That Colby Covington going into Brazil is gnarly as fuck.
With Max coming in, short notice, I've heard rumors that they offered the fight to Eddie Alvarez first.
And then Brian Ortega.
No. Brian Ortega threw himself into the ring. I don't think they offered it to Brian. I think he said, I'll do it. And they said, wait, because they were waiting to hear back from Max. And then Max got back to him.
From what I had thought I had heard, it was that Max had, Alvarez had the first shot. He didn't want it. They were waiting for Max. And they asked Ortega. And Ortega said yes. But it was contingent on Max not taking the fight. Essentially, the UFC was like, hey, do you want the fight? Maybe. If this guy doesn't take it, will you take it? And Ortega was like, hell yeah, I'll take that fight. And now he's making claim that they did contact him, but
all three of those fights I want to see.
In time.
In
time, gentlemen. I can't wait. The divisions are hot. We got new blood in every single weight division in our entire sport.
And before we get into our main card breakdown, we have been waiting for this. I feel like, one of those big furry goats. No, those goats that stand on the side of the cliff and they have the tiny little hooves balancing on just rocks, just chipping away, falling into the valley below.
The ones that the eagles fly in and take off and drop.
Yeah, totally. Those ones. And they're like, oh shit, they almost lose their footing. I feel like I've been just holding on to wait for this breakdown. I'm so grateful. I feel blessed that Max stepped in. And at first I was so disappointed that the fight was off. I knew it was going to happen, though. It was like every time I looked at my phone, I just knew it. Maybe we all put the energy out there. We knew it.
The information coming out on April 1st, I remember sending it to you after I officially had verified, because we had already both sent each other a few of them beforehand, because we have gotten the media or Twitter or whatever,
we send
people
each other old things
that people recirculate and called the fight off. But when I officially saw the verification on Tony Ferguson's Instagram himself, it was like, hey, we got problems. We got problems.
And then when Max Holloway replaced Tony,
I was immediately let down. And I gotta say, immediately I was let down. And as time's grown, I've grown fonder of it, but I just wish it had an entire media cycle behind it. I would really wait.
I'm excited that it doesn't. I sometimes think that this works. I sometimes think it's so weird and so and I feel like a lot of people must think like me. At first, I was so bummed, like I knew this was gonna happen. Me, whatever. And then I was getting myself damned because there's still Quinta Felder, there's still Joanna Rose, there's still, and then Max, that happens, and now that I've sat on it, what an intriguing, interesting fight. And I'm okay. Sometimes romance, sometimes the things I like the most about fights, sometimes things happen in perfection. And Edgar and Max just couldn't take the fight then. He was just he said he would have taken the fight, but they wouldn't let him or something in the commission or wherever he was at. And it was just like, or something weird. I don't remember what was going on with his health before, but just timing wise. So for all this to come up
with Max's ankle.
Yeah, it was something like a little injury, like a sprained ankle, or something that he might have.
From what I heard, because I dug into immediately, that's what I looked into was, what did Max turn down his last fight for? And it was due to an ankle injury where he rolled his ankle pretty good, got some x-rays, and there was some swelling and bruising, and they thought that it was a minor ligament tear or stretch. And he has been rehabbing and has been blowing all of the standards through the roof. He's healing faster. He's got more flexibility and mobility that he should through the UFC Institute, as well as other proper stuff. Like, he's been going to sports professionals to rehab it. So the only thing
I like
is,
kismet. You know how I like timing.
Yep.
This is perfect timing, and the more I've sat on this, as much as I hate to say it, it was almost, if Khabib Ferguson happens, what is greater than that? What is bigger than that? As much as DC Stipe, I'm excited for that fight, but not like I was excited for Khabib Ferguson. I feel like I've been waiting for this fight for years and years and years, and I'm not alone. Fine. It's like the season of Game of Thrones. Oh, it's not coming out until 2024, the next season. Fine. Whatever. It's like, I'll wait. Like, I've just accepted it now. I'm patient. I'm more patient with it. And it's just that much more fine for both guys to build their legacy. It just makes that much more intrigue. The fact for the Conor to still stay this triangulation, and it's that much more interesting. The
interesting thing with the Conor triangulation, I feel like Conor has officially been taken out. They haven't said he's stripped, but Dana White, as of the presser, has said Conor is no longer going to be the champion. The champion is going to be either Max Holloway or Khabib. And
he's been saying that forever.
And Tony Ferguson is keeping his interim belt.
That is new news.
Tony is not losing position. Conor's just getting thrown in the mix as far as I think, or as soon as he decides to fight, he'll be the number one contender for the interim potentially, which is Tony. Woo! Give it some fights. Let's do it.
I think he gets to walk in GSP style
and just
take
for the belt,
any fight
for the shot for the belt. Who's ever in the belt
at whatever weight he wants. I think he's that big of a name.
Oh man!
Same as GSP. If GSP rolls into any division he wants and wants a fight there.
There's rumors of that GSP Conor fight potentially happening.
We're gonna talk about it when it gets there. So oh yeah, well we've said it here forever and ever and ever. We've talked about that GSP Conor fight. That was in our Wheel O with Justin Gaethje. Remember, that was one of the dudes.
Yep.
I don't even know. I would say I'll put a link down here of the episode below this so you can listen to it, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do it.
Anything other than all of this breaking news? I'm sure most fans have been fairly caught up with it.
Matt Brown, that fight's off.
Versus Condon, that's been scheduled a few times.
Carlos Condon.
Also, as of the presser, Dana White officially said he's not looking to make that fight ever again between Khabib and Tony. How do you feel about that?
I don't believe anything Dana says. I think the opposite. That means he can't wait to make it.
It's just
because he thinks this now adds a whole nother realm to it. All the Tony fans, I would say most Tony fans are the most diehard fans. Not like diehard, like they're the...
Khabib's got a pretty dirty contingent.
Khabib fans, though,
in a good
Khabib,
way.
I feel like he's breaking into a pop culture realm where he's starting to be known by people even if they're not necessarily huge fans of MMA.
Uh-huh.
He's getting his own Conor appeal. And, you know, so Tony fan, not everyone knows Tony Ferguson. He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
We always talk about it. But Max... we can talk about it when we get there. It's too much. And there was another Triple G Canelo's off.
Oh, because Canelo tested positive on the second test. So that somebody snuck in other horse meat. Also to Alistair Overeem when he was juiced out, because that's the tainted meat. It's tainted horse meat.
I believe that's all the Twitter stuff. If you're really ready to... I wish I had... We've been playing this silly effing game called HQ. And you know how it counts down before... where it's like 5, 4...
Yes.
That's what I would do right now. I would play that.
Breakdown. The main event. Why we're all here. We have... all of the other 12 scheduled bouts still on the way. Joanna is looking good on weight, supposedly. She said that the new nutritionist has definitely changed the game and fixed what she needs to do. Again, we're going to break that situation once we get to it, but the lines are out already for all these fights, and we're going to start off the main event on a pay-per-view in Brooklyn. The presser was... full to the brim. What is it? 5 in the afternoon, and there was a bunch of hooligans on both sides of the opponents. Even for against Joanna, she was getting booed during the presser. I mean, it was a packed house. It was a rowdy house. I think it's a
We would have been there.
Yeah,
you would have been there.
People were just yelling to yell, and people were just laughing. Khabib broke a few times. People are still hyped. This is some of the best news to just have this. Mixing also with Holloway also breaking Conor's records by doing the 2-champ, but already having a defending of the belt amongst that. So either way, the main card on this pay-per-view starts with Al Iaquinta versus Paul Felder at 155 pounds. Both of these guys are veterans. Al Iaquinta coming off of the show and really come together with a long win streak, like 6-7 in a row. He's 12-2 or 12-3 coming out of that Sarah Jiu-Jitsu Longo camp. I think he trains with Longo on the side. Paul Felder is definitely a UFC product out of Philadelphia, but I know that he's been at the Gracie gym and also does a lot of time at the UFC gym just because he does all of that extra fight commentary and actually is a face and getting a lot of other side gigs as well. So he utilizes that Las Vegas gym way more, which a lot of people are saying amazing things. They're like, you're giving me free nutritionist, free food, free training equipment, free water.
I'm moving to Vegas.
Kevin Lee did it, and I think that long term, it's going to really benefit them as well. They have rehab center.
The public?
No, I believe that where the UFC fighters are is always kept away, and they don't have like people cycle through. Like the pros can go off on their own, but they have a gym that you can subscribe. That's like a couple blocks down. Maybe you have something like that, but you don't get a roll with the pros. Kenton Godwin just talked about it. Remember, she just rolled with some random dude. She's like, some random camera guy was here, and we just rolled for like 10 minutes.
I wouldn't necessarily even need to roll with the pros. They could have different levels to that game, but I didn't know if it was out of the same facility or not, where they had like public classes that you could sign up for.
They may, but I do think the fighters are definitely kept away from some of those crazed hooligan fans. Either way, the older fighter is Felder by 2 years. Al Iaquinta coming in with good boxing, had ton of surgeries, ton of knee replacements, perennially hurt. Al Iaquinta has fallen out of many fights or been prolonged in his recoveries because he's been told a few times you can't recover from these type of injuries, and he's broken the systems. What I really like with Ally Quinta is he really has his dad in his game plan, and he's openly talked about where he's doing what Lomachenko in boxing's doing and working on a lot of peripheral vision and a lot of fast twitch, mental type of games, and really taking a mental aspect to this game. The toughness is there. Ally Quinta's not an easy fight. The Raging Bull, for a reason, always brings a fight. On the ground, he's a monster. He has good takedowns and entries. His striking has somewhat power, but he does tend to have his head straight up and kind of Joe Luo's on you, get you up against a fence, drag you down, and is a son of a bitch once he's on top. He puts a lot of top pressure on you and actively moves for a submission. Paul Felder, though, if anything, is shown as of late where Oliveira, which was the highest level BJJ competitor that Felder had fought as of late, really proved that his ground defense is next level. Striking, we know Paul Felder comes from that kickboxing background where he tunes guys up. He doesn't have tons of power, but he kills you by 1,000 cuts and has a great gas tank, has for a long time. Solid chin, and is really in his stride. I think we're seeing the golden years of Paul Felder right now. This is such an interesting matchup. Definitely a contender for the fan favorite of the night. I'm really excited for this just because of recently what we saw with Felder's ground defense. Ally Quinta isn't going to quit at any time. I think that there's a potential cut stoppage in here just because both of these guys bleed a lot, and I could see a DQ happening just because, hey, Dr. Stoppage, this is a TKO. I am going to go with the Irish Dragon. I think he's firing in all cylinders. It's a close decision. His takedown defense is solid. Ooh, Al has really good entries though, so that's a really tough one on the ground. This is dirty split. Fun one to start the main event. What it started in the other way. How do you feel it goes down?
You think it's going to be a split decision?
I think this is going to be a split decision.
Somebody's going to sleep in this fight.
Woo!
Both guys, in my opinion, I think they're going to stand and bang. I think this is going to be a lot of throw in. Somebody's going to sleep probably around round 2. Maybe I almost see it going similar to a TJ Dillashaw Cody Garbrandt type fight. I think we're going to see a lot more stand up. Both guys have similar style. You know, like the 1920s boxing matches?
Uh-huh.
Like they should have waxed mustaches. That's what I feel like is going to happen.
This is a throwback. They both do like the stand and bang.
I am so excited about this. I do agree with you. I think it's going to be a fan favorite. In my opinion, I think Iaquinta has more power. I would like to say I'm loving what's happening with Paul Felder's technique. With the exception of DC, there's a curse on the boys that sit at the panel. It has to be all in or nothing. I know Iaquinta also has real estate deals and whatever, but these guys are very specific when they take fights. The guys out of their camp, if they're hurt, they're hurt. He has no problem walking away if things don't smell right or feel right, and I just think he's on a mad run.
So, interesting factor with Al Iaquinta. UFC started to open these options, and Al was one of the first guys to really broker this deal with the UFC where he's getting a flat rate. It's either 80 or 90,000 for this fight. Flat. Win or lose. No win or lose bullshit. $90,000 for this fight. Win or lose.
Perfect. That's what, like the 40-40. That's probably what he was at. And he's like, no. If you want me again, we're going to do it for this. And you know I'm going to put in that type of fight.
Yeah, regardless. Win or lose because it's going to be a dirty split. But that's why I'm saying dirty split.
You think he doesn't go in there and put it all out because he already got paid his win bonus?
It's interesting because I can see the incentive of if Al Iaquinta puts on an exciting fight, that he's going to be worth more the next time. Because he's like, I just proved I'm a $90,000 fighter. Now it's 180 and they're like, oh shit, okay,
and I bet there's nothing in his contract about knockout of the night or fight of the night. So that could be an option as well. Both guys have great cardio in my opinion. I think Felder has good takedown defense. I think Iaquinta has good takedowns. Iaquinta is strong enough to get Paul Felder down in the first round. After that, I hope he doesn't exert his energy that way. Mm-hmm. Both guys have dangerous hands. It's going to come down to power. Both guys can go to sleep. I think we've seen it happen, you know.
Any MMA fight, both guys go to sleep.
I love Iaquinta. This is a biased decision. I'm going to put both guys on different cards. I think they're both good plays.
I can see that totally.
I got Iaquinta KO round 2.
Wow.
End of round 2. End of round 2.
The betting lines is actually minus 110 for Paul Felder against minus 120 for Iaquinta. There's a coin flip of a fight. Opened up about near even as well.
That's the beans shirt. Coin flip of a fight.
I guess.
It's a coin flip, this.
A lot of people say it. I'm not the only one.
I know. It is a coin flip of a fight. I know what it is. I've heard it. It really is. It's a dirty split
So
fight.
even with this, the
Dirty split
Draftkings tend to favor where Lesbo is on 8,200 on DraftKings for Iaquinta for 8,000 against Paul Felder. A little bit of money to be made on Felder. I do think, though, the takedowns do favor Iaquinta, so I see how he has a little bit of the higher average points in a fight. 76 average for Al compared to the 67 for Felder. Dirty split. Not going to put it everywhere. There's definitely other fun fights to go on for this main card.
Your whole night away.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to have to mix them up.
Night away.
What really sucks about these coin flip of fights...
You think a whiskey drink? You think a vodka drink?
Well, I can see Felder being the guy saying it. He looks just like him.
It's such a
creepy.
A throwback
And so,
to your childhood.
with that throwback...
Sorry. He does look like he could sing that. Paul Felder could be in the video.
Doesn't he?
Sing the song that reminds you of the good time. Sing a song that he does look like he shouldn't speak American English.
Right. Very, very...
He looks European.
European.
Or he could be Irish, he could be Scottish.
I could see that. But then again...
He is the Irish dragon.
Oh, you're looking like me.
That's true. All us pasties.
I tell you apart by your tattoos. That's a joke. That's a joke.
You call us low melatones.
Is he the one with the big gorilla on his chest?
You got that low melatonin? You talking about that one with the low melatonin?
That was just a bad joke. So, on to the next fight. We have 155 bout, also brought to us by Mike Chiesa versus Anthony Pettis at the second pay-per-view fight. Chiesa is coming in with a 13-3 record against Pettis' high level 20-7. Pettis has really been up and down. Win one, lose one as of late, but it's all been against top-level competition. His last loss came to Dustin Poirier TKO via rib injury, but I feel like Dustin Poirier himself said it, that it wasn't that rib that got Pettis out of there. It was Dustin Poirier who got him out of there.
Yeah.
And that can happen to Pettis. We've seen it multiple times. He's a top-level athlete, but I think that he's on the same passing the torch moment as Joe Rogan to his younger brother and saying, here, baby bro. Here, baby Pettis. You take the torch. You live on. You got the juice. So, let's go, baby Pettis. It's more of a fade for me. We know what we're getting. Pettis is actually a elite striker, but he breaks brittle hands, brittle feet, pops out a shoulder, a rib. He's injury prone. A lot of his fights has to adjust, but people can take advantage of that. He has killer body shots, and Mike Chiesa is open for the body shot in this. On the ground, Anthony Pettis has submitted some of the best on the ground, submitting Benson Henderson, which is a very tough feat. Couple other guys in there as well. Pettis beating Jim Miller by decision, I think, really sums up kind of where Pettis is at. I think Chiesa's barely above that right now in his career. What I really don't like with Chiesa, loses every first round. Gives it away. And Anthony Pettis has hard enough kicks to put him out. But I am giving Chiesa the submission. I was going round one. I think it's going to go into round two. Anthony Pettis is trying to come back off of, he doesn't win he doesn't lose 2 in a row. He doesn't win 2 in a row. He's on a win for Pettis. But I do think Chiesa turns it on in the second. A little bit more maybe in the third. Submission. Pettis needs to, I think, start looking more into his coaching of the gyms that he does and doing the Latino broadcast stuff. Unfortunately for him, trying to make some money here. And I got Chiesa. How do you feel this goes down? Third round submission.
I agree with you. There is everywhere that Anthony's dangerous. Mike Chiesa kind of stifles it. I also think Mike Chiesa has pretty decent leg kicks and such a good reach advantage here. His jab's gotten faster for me over the years. His punches have gotten less looping over the years. And Anthony, I feel like he's done the opposite a little bit, where his game's getting less tight, and there is a little bit of quit in Anthony Pettis. Mike Chiesa isn't a quitter.
Yep, he can be hurt, and that's where he finishes guys
He would
because they
have
blow
gone
their
to
load.
sleep if Mizugaki didn't blow his wad.
They could have let him go to sleep, and that would have. Yeah.
And not every guy will, you know. A lot of dudes will.
He was dead. He was dead to rights, but you got to let that go all the way through.
And some people think that it was a good enough guy, and some now that we've seen.
So
some
if Kevin
really
Lee can do
tight
that,
holds-
if Kevin Lee can do that, Anthony Pettis can do that. I would say Anthony Pettis is that level on the ground. He's nasty.
I also think that Mike Chiesa has other instruments to win this. I don't know if I see the submission coming. I just see kind of exactly what you see happening, and I even think Chiesa could win the end of the first round enough to change it in the judge's mind. I think Anthony's going to come out hot.
Yep.
And Mike Chiesa can do some damage there to make him think twice about it and respect him and not do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Chiesa is so tricky on the ground. I know Anthony Pettis is too, but I think Mike Chiesa is, and I know I think Kevin Lee is on his way up the rungs where Anthony Pettis is on his way down. I don't think if Kevin Lee can submit Mike Chiesa, Anthony Pettis can too. I think Kevin Lee's better now. I would like to see Kevin fight Anthony Pettis.
Uh-huh.
I got Mike Chiesa, but I got Mike Chiesa by decision.
Could see a dirty split there too.
Pretty strong
I can see a dirty
decision.
split there.
We are in New York.
So, but Pettis is out of Chicago and Chiesa's from the West Coast.
I just think New Yorkers tend to favor fame.
Oh, okay. So the vanity. So you think it's coming in on Pettis because we actually have Pettis as the underdog on Draftkings at 7,600 against Chiesa's 8,600. It's a little bloated for me for my Chiesa, even though I do have him, and I have him finishing in the later rounds, like third round submission. I'll fit him. I got a couple underdogs. I feel like Chiesa is going to go on a few cards, not everything. That is a closer fight than people are giving the other odds on, which is Michael Chiesa is a minus 145 favorite against the plus 125 or 115 Anthony Pettis, if you're going, depending on the betting site you're going on. I don't see too much value. I like Chiesa on a couple things. Maybe throw a couple of these close coin flip of fights because we have so many of them.
Yeah.
Put the opposite guy that you have, all three together in case the night goes weird, or do that round robin kind of tool.
I don't even know every fight is so close. I've never seen a fight card where
It's
every
so
fight
matched so well.
is so close.
Dana White himself is still like, this main event is kind of better. Some say it's better, but either way, the card's so fucking dope that JJ vs. Rose 2 is totally a good enough of a story. UFC's having a little trouble selling Rose, but we're getting there. On to...
Wait.
Whoop, sorry.
Oh, wait. Yeah, so Mike Chiesa...
Is also the betting favorite at minus 145
And
again.
you
Anthony Pettis.
have dirty split Pettis?
No, I have Chiesa submission round 3,
Round
if
3.
not dirty split,
Okay.
because it's going to be a close one. They both kind of get themselves into trouble at times.
We've been seeing dirty split so many times in this.
This whole night. That's what I'm saying. Put them in that round robin option if you're on Bovada. Do you know that option? Where you put, instead of your parlay, where it's just that it matches like the combinations a few different ways and puts different guys together, and you can catch some
maybe
weird money.
One of them will work like a roulette table.
Yeah, exactly. So, either way, we got another close one coming up in the featherweight division, 145 pounds. Is it that these middleweight bouts, 155-pound bouts and whatnot that we're having through the night, is why it's so exciting? I think these divisions have been the highlight of the UFC for the last few years, and all of them are dogfights because it is a stacked division. Absolutely stacked. All the way around.
Unbelievable.
Right? So we have...
Are they trying to impress somebody? Is this all for Jay-Z and Beyonce?
It's working. I mean, I feel like there's a ton of hype, especially because of the late notice replacement. It just puts it on that many more people's radar that wouldn't have been before. It put a different kind of hype on it. That not just the hardcores we're going to watch. So, Qatar versus Lento, Carnera. Qatar's been 18-2, and Carnera is 11-1, only losing his last submission loss, guillotine choke, to Brian Ortega 8 months ago. Carnero has had a 10-fight winning streak prior to that, beating Jeremy Stevens in a split decision. Also, Zabir Taisugov, the Russian, in a split. Ninamaki, the Japanese guy. And on. We know what we're getting with the Brazilian fighter. Great ground game. Crisp striking. More of a Muay Thai striker. Tons of power. Hurts people. But Qatar, I feel like, has really been coming through as of late. I didn't see Qatar doing what he was going to do. I thought Burgos was going to be a steady favorite. But 2 months ago, Qatar came through that in flying colors. His 18-2 wins. He's only lost, I believe, 2 decisions early on in his career. Qatar is a jack of all trades and not a master, and a master of none, but it's high level. And both of these guys are in that boat. They're both well-rounded and really high level all the way around, which makes it such a coin flip of a fight. Because these the takedowns for Qatar are going to play big. He has good takedowns, good entries. His wrestler, Carnero, though, has good takedown defense. He's shown it in every one of his fights. That Russian fighter got stood up. Even though Carnero on the ground, when the few people that have gotten him down all of a sudden are like, I got a little squid on me. Like, this guy is wrapping me up. Qatar, though, has power. Showed it with Burgos. Picks his shots really well. Good counter striker. Good IQ from what we've seen on the ground. He can submit people as well. He's coming out of 617 fight Massachusetts, but I do feel like he has some local ties around. Qatar isn't too far away. He's going to have a lot of fans there. This is just who's going to want it more. And what's been telling me as of late is Qatar proves that he can be out there in a professional, but he's also a promoter in his other life, and he works a job, I believe. So he has 2 other jobs on top of being a UFC fighter. I think he also coaches classes. So he does promotion of a fight organization locally in his area, fights in the UFC. Other people have done it, like Chael Sonnen, but eventually push comes to shove, and he's now fighting elite of the elite. I think Burgos is starting to get to that point. Carnero has definitely proven that he's one of these elite guys to me, even though he lost as of late to Ortega. Ortega's one of these next level guys, as we're seeing, because he was beating the shit out of Ortega whole fight. All 3 rounds were going to him until that submission came around, and that's just a testament to Brian Ortega. But this is a dirty ass split. I'm going with Carnero. Qatar, though, can easily take this with having just 3 takedowns, 1 in each round, and solidifying it. But depends on if Miss Bird is in the stands, because we hear the bird a chirping a day, and hopefully she ain't. How do you feel this one goes down?
So if a good prop bet would be, there is going to be some upset fans by some of these decisions.
There's going to be booing regardless. But they're going to be close fights. I think it's going to be crazy scramble, especially in this. Both guys have power. Both guys have interesting striking. Carnero is more traditional in his Muay Thai and in and out movement. And I think Qatar is sneaky in his setups. I really like what Qatar's doing. I might have to go back. I'm back and forth on this. I could go Qatar right now and be okay.
I was just going to ask you this. What would be like a first picture that comes to your head if I say back and forth?
Oh, I got Qatar exiting out of the break. I think Qatar has better
No, I mean like a
striking.
descriptive picture. Like mine is like when I think back and forth, I think a cat's head with a laser pointer.
Oh, okay.
Every single fight, I've gone back and forth on, even from our prelim show, from our prelims,
Yep.
like I want to go through some of those and probably adjust them a little bit. It could go either way. The people that get it all right are going to be a very special select few people. And even them, they'll only get it all right because there was at least one bad call that went in their favor from judges.
Yep.
And we're all going to have that. Everyone's going to have one to go in your favor and one to not. That's one of these fights. I've gone back and forth a whole bunch of times. My only one deciding factor is I don't like a Massachusetts guy fighting in New York. So I went with the Brazilian. I think he's been tested in more grimy fights against better caliber people.
That's a great assessment.
And the Jeremy Stevens fight, that rings out so strong in my head. Calvin's not ready for that. I like Canero's chin here. I like Canero's ground game enough that Qatar's not going to want to go there with him. This is going to be another stand-up crazy good fight. Every once in a while we'll see it up against the cage. I got Canero by decision. I might have Qatar on a few cards as well. That's what I feel like I've said about every fight.
So, Moicano Carnero is the underdog, 7,500 underdog on DraftKings against Calvin Qatar's 8,700.
Good. That makes me excited.
So, I'm going to be putting Carnero on a few cards. I'm going to be putting Qatar on a couple too. Because I'm going to have one of these cards as well on my DraftKings that I'm going to pick opposite of myself because it's this close. And no one's going to be 100% right. March Madness in full effect later on into the year. You never knew until
It's
now.
April.
Oh, Jesus. We're where is the time gone?
It's April awkwardness.
No, we got March Madness extended into April.
Easter's over.
Woo!
Easter's done.
So
That's
April
done.
in full
Fool's Day
effect.
is done. It's
Woo!
April Fools.
I got stunned still from that April Fool's. It was so eventful. There was just so many times that I had been barely holding on as I had said, and guess what? Bottom fell out. Poof. I was just like, what am I reading? Is
Did
this
you think it
real?
was fake
Is
at
this
first?
real life? Yes. I was totally like, is this real life? Like, there's no way. April
Are
Fool's
you being
and
a hater
Dana.
on Tony?
No. An accident's an accident. It sucks. And they're 1 for 1. Tony's falling out once
Aren't
for
they 2
injury.
for 2?
Now they are.
Yeah, now they're 2 for 2.
It was Khabib. Khabib fell out twice. Weight cut. Day of the fight. Errol Houani has a very infamous story saying that there was a guy who flew in from Europe, got in, and was like, walked into the arena and saw Houani and was like, yeah, I can't wait for the fight. And Houani was just like, fight's off. Khabib couldn't make weight. He went to the hospital. And the fan was just like, what? So Khabib's in the same boat. We got a little more time. Arguably a better fight than before because before it was like a Derek Horcher or some debuting fighters would fight Khabib.
I can't
Now
wait
he's
till we
got a
go
champ.
to LaTB goes to their first pay-per-view. And I'm going to tell you, I would be re-excited now.
Uh-huh.
It would have taken a couple of days. But I would have been devastated if I had intentions on getting to UFC 223 and UFC 223 and UFC 223 and that would have been me having a nervous breakdown. That would have been me having I would have been like, Tony.
Oh.
And speaking of that fight, because we might as well
What?
talk about that fight a little bit. What did you think was going to happen in Tony versus Khabib?
Before we break down the co-main event, because that could be a main event itself, so
Let's
that's a
do
good
it.
little one. Let's just get what we were going to say real quick. To break it all down, because I'm going to repeat it more so later with Khabib, because I think the same game plan still applies for him regardless of the opponent change. With Tony, those Grandies, the danger rolls, I was going to really highlight where you can see a lot of Penn State wrestlers do this danger roll where once the takedown is in it, on the hips, he almost Granby's out and or dives and rolls forward, which then creates a scramble that benefits usually the guy that rolls. So Tony's really been hitting these really well in a lot of high-level fights. The striking's better for Tony. His off of his back, Tony's elbows really make guys not want to crawl up him like Khabib usually does. It all depends on whether Khabib gets that wrist control and Tony knows how to peel it off. Eddie Bravo specifically talked about that entire camp, that they knew the takedown was going to eventually happen. Okay, what were they going to do after that? So that whole camp was based off of working off of the bottom with elbows, breaking the wrist control, and getting back up. I had a big fucking underdog that was going to cash with Tony Ferguson beating Khabib because Khabib is a specialist and Tony Ferguson is an MMA fighter, well-rounded all the way around. He has specialties in areas, which is the ground on top takedowns, and even his striking is starting to show that it's elite next level. Max is going to have a big step up and a hard task. We'll get there when we get there, but Khabib is going to use that same stuff, and I had Tony. How do you feel that would have gone if it would have gone down?
I don't think it was any surprise to anyone. I was El Kukui most of the time.
Yep.
Most of the time, all the way. And I'm less of a Khabib hater now. I am a huge Khabib fan. I think he's one of the best guys. Tony prepared. Khabib does everything the same. And Tony's a guy that prepared for a guy who does everything the same.
Yep.
There's nothing new that changes in Khabib's game plan. His striking's gotten a little better throughout time. But has it, though? Does it need to at all? None of it. It's the same game plan every time.
Yep.
Tony has showed all of his fights. Not only is he evolving, and he's an evolving mixed martial artist, he's creating things. He's showing us new stuff inside the octagon every time. You can't watch his fights and get comfortable with something Tony Ferguson's going to do. The way in the latter part of his few fights, what I was going to highlight as part of Tony Ferguson's danger is his inside elbows are like nothing else around.
Yep.
They are so fast, and you don't even see it coming with the naked eye when you're watching it. I also thought Eddie Bravo's camp was going to be hugely successful from him because he knew he was going to be fighting off his back and fighting with pretty much a bear on top of him. I think there was a game plan to go in with Khabib. And I think El Kukui would have figured it out. I think it would have been one of the best fights in UFC. And I'm going to put manifest and create good energy, and I do think we'll get to see it. And I like what Khabib's father came out and said, pretty much as long as Tony's breathing, they're going to want that fight.
Yep.
And I love that even with Max Holloway, even hopefully now with the new Khabib and him being on point with his weight and the new nutritionist and everything, I love how these guys just want to fight the best. Because to fight the best, you have to be the best.
And to be the best
is blessed.
Baby! Love it.
So
it's a fucking uphill battle. Man,
Oh
it's
my
not an easy route to go.
gosh.
Not an easy route to go.
make sure you're liking and subscribing before we get into the
The
co-main event.
main event, you're getting your money's worth. You got the Bean's birthday coming up pretty soon, so we getting this in HD.
You could tell two friends about Lesbo and the Bean for the Bean's birthday.
Oh, a little cupcakes. Get a
Little cupcakes.
have a little cupcakes for
Little cupcakes. Little cups. I hate those words. I hate all those stupid
You're gonna have to
words.
put freaking parental advisory all over our show.
Oh my God.
I've cussed so many times, so it doesn't matter. So
Is cuck a cuss word?
I think so.
I thought it was like calling guys like that watch other guys have sex with their wives.
Yeah, I think that's a bad word.
But we say fuck.
Also a bad word.
Anything that ends in we say duck.
Not bad. That's not a bad one. That's not bad. That's good. That's cleared. What else do you want to know? What other words? Throw one at me.
Yuck.
Also clear.
Luck.
We're gonna need a little bit of luck on this night because, again, we got all those coin flips.
Cock.
That one's iffy. A rooster? What are you talking about here? Let's go bringing it out.
Alright. Sorry, that is so disrespectful to the Boogie Woman.
Which I have not seen at all. I haven't seen an ounce of the Boogie Woman. Rightfully so. She's gotten maybe her game plan together and realized that she needs to get in there and do her job, which is to win fights. I really like that Joanna at the strawweight division. This is an immediate challenge for Joanna. 14-1, only losing her only fight ever. I think first fight in X amount of years, maybe 8 or 9 years. Tons of fights in kickboxing out of Poland against Rose Namajunas is 7-3, having a few losses in the UFC already to the likes of Carla Esparza, Karolina Kowalkiewicz in a split decision, and Rose last beating Michelle Watterson, but that KK being such a decisive win really puts into question kind of the men's sense.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Last beating. Violence, the champion. I mean,
handedly.
What I really like, why we waited
Taps
after the
to
presser.
strikes.
Supposedly it wasn't, and the more I look at that footage, I could see where it wasn't a tap. But I also see it where I first day, that was a tap. And I said on the air, that was a tap. So but I looked at it again. I don't think it is anymore. I watched it again recently and was like, I think her hand just moved and it was stepping in regardless. But I think it was a timing thing. You think it?
P to P.
So, Joanna's
Tap to pain.
biggest issue was she openly came out. She fired her nutritionist, fired a few other coaches, and has really gone with Big Mikey Brown. We saw the Mikey Brown professional himself definitely taking fighters to the next level out of American Top Team. Joanna's really talking about that she needs a break and whatever, but really with getting her nutrition in line, it's really helped her because, as we were saying, specifically Lesbo was beating the drum of Joanna's looking thick in there and getting really big, and what they were doing was trying to give her the
I don't know why I feel like every men are scared. They have all these analysts and they break down the men fighters all the time and say, he looks heavy right now. He's walking around at a big weight. They stay away from the women with a 10-foot pole with that. So you can come here for the ladies' weights. I'll be honest about it.
We'll be honest here at LaTB. So with the weight cuts now in check with Joanna, she says she feels a lot better. They were doing baths with Epsom salts and or alcohol baths, and it stopped working at a point in time, and that's why she had a really hard weight cut that she had to stay up and ruin her cycle. So with the presser, as of late, what I really liked is the lack of the boogie woman. JJ fell back into her roots and immediately said, I like that I lost to her. It prolonged my career. I'm going to be fighting way longer than I was before because she had already beaten all the contenders. Nobody was going to come and take her belt, and she was going to prove it again. And now she's going to beat Rose, supposedly, and then move on to meet Chev Valentina, bullet for my Valentine, herself in an awesome fight for the 125 belt. But until then, she's got a hell of a fighter in front of her. Rose Namajunas has really gotten her focus, and coming in with that great striking, they can put a game plan together now and implement it during a fight. They showed it with JJ by finishing her dramatically, regardless of a tap or not. JJ's arm flipped behind her back. She was so out on her feet with that left hook, and I really was watching a lot of really good breakdowns on what happened there. Joanna is a traditional kickboxer and has big gloves, and she tends to stick her hands out with the big gloves to stop. She'll rake the face sometimes just because it's natural, or she'll front kick out as well to gauge that and keep it away from her. But Rose was timing that, and I think that was where Shevchenko's training camp with Rose came in, and they're gonna Pat Barry and Rose are gonna have the same kind of mentality, even though I really love where Rose has been saying as of late through all of the embeddeds. Really recommend watching those as well. That she realizes that belt doesn't mean anything. And I love everything that Rose says. None of this matters. Be a good person. And the crowd goes crazy for Rose. It was really funny.
Hey, Rose, here's a really long question of a whole bunch of meaningless words and everything that I'm going to put into black and white to try to catch you up on something. How do you feel about it? I just trained hard for Joanna, and that's all I have to say. Yeah!
Be good. No, be good and be good to each other. Like, this don't matter.
They don't even care. No one even... But that's the new... Fighters want to fight, to be the best.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean you have to be angry. It doesn't mean...
phase we're moving into in the UFC.
The samurai, the stoic fighter, back into that frame again a little bit. Like, this is just a job. I could be faxing paperwork right now. Instead, I'm winning belts in this game. But the precision that Joanna, the mentality that she has, she realizing that she's working with the best is a hell of a feat to come across. So with Rose, she's realizing and been talking about
and you said
this
you've been
is a different
watching
fight.
The embedded?
Correct.
Have you been watching her punch them tennis balls?
I actually like that coordination. I really like where Pat Barry was throwing like 3 and 4 at a time, where it was like pop, pop, pop.
I have to be honest.
That was legit.
Maybe I am going through a lady period of the month. Maybe it's the full moon. But when he was like, oh my gosh, she's so much better about it than she used to be. She follows through now. She's like this and this. He was so proud of her when he was talking about the punching of the tennis balls. It touched my heart. Like, it made me a little misty.
Well, how did you feel about her Thug Rose baby, her little fur baby in there with the ball playing around? I just got to say, PSA real quick. I got to shame you right now real quick, Thug Rose. You got to put a collar on your dog. At the very least, if it's an off-leash area, that's okay as well. Just pick up after your dog. Don't be some asshole.
But you know what? That looked like it was her yard.
If it was her yard...
It looked like it was Colorado.
Okay.
If it was still in Colorado. And
well, if she's open to the streets, if that dog can get out of the streets...
Did you see how far away... There was one time when it showed behind Pat.
Yep.
It was so far away. So it made you think it was like a park. But I think it was like in their neighborhood.
I hope there are just no cars around, because I have picked up enough dogs off of the street around here.
Oh, me too. But I was also... my first thought, because I'm freaking lazy Glaze, I'm like, ugh. I wonder if like part of her training is having to go pick up all those tennis balls.
It's like the chicken for Rocky.
It would be kind of a good idea though. Like, you got to get them in the bucket. All in the bucket.
So, I think with Joanna, if I saw the footage and I could see breakdowns of what happened with Joanna, and especially with that weight cut, I do think that this fight, at the very least, is a prolonged decision. And a decision we definitely see Joanna be able to win those 4th and 5th rounds, which are crucial in those 5 championship rounds. I think that we have and knew. Was it a bit of a flash? I do think it was a kind of a perfect storm with the weight cut, with everything, even though I don't like those excuses, and I do think they're excuses. I really like that there's no more boogie woman bullshit. There's none of this being over the top. I think it really humbled Joanna, and like she said, this is better for their career, and a lot of fighters say that, and the ones that really believe it, it works out for them in the long run. I got and new strawweight champion Joanna taking back her belt and then moving up to 125 maybe after one defense. But we're going to see multiple champs in this entire game. We're going to see more weight classes. We got a long way to go. How do you feel this one goes down at the end of the night?
Joanna hasn't... There's something about her that she hasn't taken ownership of her loss enough to learn from it. Mm-hmm. And Rose has never built or believed in a hype train about herself, and still doesn't right now. The thing being said about her over and over again, how she's trained with Shevchenko. Shevchenko went to Rose to train for part of her camp because Rose is so good on the ground. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing her striking get layers and layers better. Joanna's a point fighter. Rose is something different. I think what we're going to see, we keep talking about how evenly matched, these coin flip fights, you can go either way. It's purist versus... Not Joanna's a well-rounded mixed martial artist, or is she? Is she a Muay Thai specialist? Are we seeing the well-rounded mixed martial artist versus a lot of the specialists in a lot of these fights? Or two bangers, or they're stifling each other on the ground?
It's a mix-up. There's some fun ones.
Alpaca, you just liked our tweet.
And so he's going to break down the presser for us. So get to Alpaca. Also get to us, like and subscribe us on Twitter.
Yeah, you go to YouTube and follow Alpaca Thesaurus. They do pretty fun videos, breakdowns of like emotional responses, body language, that type of thing. It's pretty great. And other stuff. They talk about other stuff. They're working and growing their channel all the time. Back to Rose and JJ. Oh, and if you're going to follow Alpaca, make sure you're liking and following us. Rose and JJ, so Rose is crazy good on the ground. I think her hands are getting better and better. Though Joanna, another thing I saw about them is they said they didn't change a lot about their camp because it was such a bad Joanna, it wasn't even her in there. Mm-hmm. Because she's such the queen. I think this is another bad way to think about it. Because now they didn't change a lot about their camp. Mm-hmm. So they trained for all intents and purposes, Michelle Watterson, Rose Namajunas. She's so much better than that Rose Namajunas now.
Uh-huh.
And I do like what you're saying is, wow, she's had 2 flashes with her last 2 wins. Rose hasn't been tested in a bit. Joanna can test her. You know, Joanna can lay the punches on. Joanna can go into the championship rounds. I just don't think she's going to have time to get there. I think Rose is going to hurt her again. I think it's not just a fluke of Joanna being dehydrated, because it wasn't just a fluke in that fight alone. She did it twice. I think Rose is going to do it again. She's going to submit Joanna in round 2.
Wow. So,
Thug Rose!
David, Thug Rose. I love that. Thug Rose.
I hope we
Thug
hear it
Rose.
again and again and again. I love Joanna. I want her to move up. I need my Shevchenko Joanna super fight. I think we see the best version of Joanna with 10 more pounds. She shouldn't be hurting herself anymore. I'm not a fan of weight cuts. This is a natural weight class for Rose. I love the way the UFC has set it all up, where you get to see Rose lose to Cookie Monster, and then in turn Joanna beat her the next, quickly after it. You get to see that turn through, and then each fighter progress. Watterson win, who cares? In my opinion, I'm like, okay, flash submission, Watterson, cool. Or it was, she kicked her, head kicked her.
Yeah, and then it was submission.
Yeah, and then it was
Yeah,
submission.
I think it wasn't. Yep.
Joanna's freaking incredible. She shouldn't be doing this to herself anymore. Even the amount she's been training at American Top Team, guess what all that training does? Add muscle to your body. So the cut becomes harder and harder. I even say this. Yeah, it might be on point. She might be able to get down to that weight very nicely. Joanna's not going to have Joanna cardio anymore. Rose is going to have that cardio.
So,
Thug Rose! Sorry.
the betting favorite is minus 120. Joanna, former champion, Jezer Jacek, against Thug Rose's minus 110. This is a coin flip on the books. You can count it up. How many more do we got? That has a dirty split. It's a dirty split all over for me. The finish.
Oh, that's
is
what I was going to
both.
say, but this is what I agree with you on. I'm going to even change mine right now, because I had this vision last night and I thought about it. It's going to be a dirty split, but to be the champ, you have to beat the champ. And it's not going to be decisive enough. I got Thug Rose dirty split. It's going to be so emotional.
Decisions.
And
Decisions.
If there's a parlay bet you can make that Joanna's going to move up immediately afterwards, make that bet.
So on DraftKings, Joanna is 8,300 against Thug Rose's 7,900. Thug Rose is definitely a little bit more of the wager gauge there. I think that this is a 5-rounder. You can even you'll put either one on a few cards because there's a dirty split, and or both because it's 5 rounds.
They tend to get more
And
points.
Joanna can get those 120 type of. She has a type of output.
Thug, she can get good points.
Exactly. So yeah, maybe both on a couple just to get a little funky in there, just to win some of those cash games. So anything left on that one? Because we got short notice coming up.
I love both fighters so much. I love Pat Barry. I love Rose. I love Joanna. I love everything about it. That's all I have to say about it. Thug Rose!
Main event, 6-day notice, 155 pounds. Connor's stripped. Tony
No,
Ferguson's
he's
holding
not
his
yet.
bed. This is for the belt.
I understand. And Dana's made it clear. When the bell rings, Connor's stripped.
So Connor's gonna come in with a chair? What are you saying?
I don't know. I'm just
What
saying
do you
when the
say?
bell
What are
rings.
these like? What does that mean? Like he's gonna run in and be like, no, get out of here, get out of here, Max. Because this is also a thing we do have to worry about. Even Holloway said it at the presser. Everyone's asking about Wade. Don't worry about him. There's been coaches and or UFC brass that have said this is one of the bigger weight cuts they've ever seen. Max Holloway has youth on his side right now. He probably won't do this many times in his life, but if there's a point in time, it's early in your 20s. He's right there. He could do it, but that is just another factor where he's up at like the 190 range was what people are saying. That's pretty heavy to have to cut the 155. 145, unreal, but he then usually has prolonged camps to get there.
And he might be at the 190 range walking in, but everybody retains tons of extra water, especially on a long flight. Especially on a long flight. It's not his natural weight. He doesn't walk around that heavy, in my
Yeah. So,
lesbo opinion.
what are all the factors with this? 6 days notice.
Okay,
the
so
weight
what I was
cut.
saying is that the belt... Do we still trust Khabib's going to make weight?
We're still holding on. We still might just have a Joanna versus Rose Namajunas belt on the pay-per-view, and they move something else up to the pay-per-view, maybe 2 fights. But either way, that's a fight that is worthy of a pay-per-view.
So that's why I think Conor's not stripped until the bell rings. Because if the fight gets canceled, Conor keeps his belt, Tony keeps his belt, and we're sitting with a whole big queef in the division. So, time will tell, but we can start talking about it.
So the other
Jet
factors.
lag for Holloway is real. He had to have flown, 20 hours on a flight from Hawaii? I don't know what that flight is. I'll look it up, though, while you want to talk about other factors.
Other factors, we have the jet lag, we have the weight cut, we have somebody who wasn't getting ready for any wrestler, but I love Holloway's mentality where he's like, I was getting ready for everyone. It doesn't matter. He was getting ready for Khabib eventually. But a 5-rounder short notice is a hell of a task to put up. Max Holloway also has an ankle injury that he had to pull out of a fight. He's blowing through the records and looking better than he ever has. But still, just training to get better and training for a 5-round fight are 2 completely different things. You have a different mentality. I admire everything that Max Holloway is doing to come in here and save the card, and it is going to be fun. But I just feel like no one would be more fun. A full training camp, Max Holloway versus Khabib. That's 2 guys really going at it, the peak of their abilities towards each other. But either way, we got what we got. It is what it is, and we're going to make the best of it. This is definitely has a shot for an underdog to come through. Max Holloway, his benefits that he has with this. Khabib didn't get to train for Max Holloway. Max Holloway has good cardio, and he does stay in shape. He does blow records out of the water as far as recovery, because most of these elite athletes do, because he has...
10-hour flight.
That's not too bad.
From gate to gate. 10 hours and 33 minutes. With probably 6 hours time difference, maybe 4, something crazy. It's got to be at least 5.
We got to be on those weigh-ins. So as I was saying, though, some of the benefits, I don't want to just be bagging on Max.
Don't come to me with this geography. I ask myself the own questions, and then I have to find the answer. I can't.
Where they're most compromised, though, for me, and not the flight necessarily, is after that weight cut, because that weight cut really diminishes our immune system. It really compromises our immune system. So guys have
understand that,
notoriously.
but Max also isn't going down to 145.
10 pounds more. So true, that does make it a bit easier.
156.
Nope, championship weight. It's 55. If it's for the belt, it has to be 55.
It can't be 156?
Cannot. They get the pound allowance only because it's not a belt for the belt. It has to be 155.
Huh.
Any belt, any interim has to be.
Good to know.
Yep. You don't get that pound allowance. That affects Khabib as well. He has to lose a pound, and he doesn't have easy weight cuts. He's around that 190, but he had a full training camp. I heard rumors
Khabib was walking around on weight right now.
Beautiful. I love it. Let's do it. Hopefully, I just want to see that 8 months, 4 months from, or 2 months from now.
About me, how much I am bigger than him. He bigger than me.
He is. He's taller than him. He's taller than Khabib. It's true. The embeddeds were great, though. You brought it up to me when they're running alongside, and Max is like, I was just going to get a jog in. Guess I'm running.
No man's going to get on a treadmill next to me. 1 of 2 things is going to happen. They are either going to get off or I am going to die.
That is the beautiful thing about Max Holloway and the Hawaiian fighters in general. BJ Penn was like that. BJ Penn fought Lyoto Machida.
Does this make Max Holloway bigger than BJ Penn?
Max says it himself. This is how legends are made.
This is how legends are made.
He's doing all the right things. And in the scheme of all of this, Max doesn't lose. Everyone says, yeah, he lost to a guy on 6 days' notice. Not a big deal. He has everything to win. holy shit, he just beat a guy on 6 days' notice, up a weight class for the belt. He's a champ. He's defended at 145. He's about to get Conor. Like, he has everything ahead of him. Khabib has nothing. It's a contender. It's just defending at that point.
So I'm also super grateful Khabib took this fight.
He needs that money. He's making big money. He's got a lot of that big Russian money.
Remember when I first started watching UFC, how I thought Max Holloway and Tony Ferguson were the same person?
Yes, that's horrible. It's horrible.
Look where we're at.
Yeah, how
Look
much
where
you've
we're
grown.
at.
How much we've grown.
I know, but look at where fight just happened, and I was going to
Look at this, and look at how much we got big things coming. We got money moves making. We got all sorts of love showing our way. People are starting to like what we're doing. We appreciate it. We definitely see it.
We love it.
So,
we love it.
Back to the fight, though, because there is just so much to cover in such a short amount of time. With this fight finally being booked, Khabib's father has said it as well. Khabib said it on the presser himself. Hey,
Piece
Max.
of trivia. Who has the longer win streak in the UFC? Max or Khabib?
Max, I believe, with 12, right?
Good one.
And Khabib with 10. And Khabib's had a bunch of guys fall out on him where he's fighting guys on debut a few times where it's in the same boat. It's interesting how it just kind of tends to happen here. But what Khabib was saying at the presser, what Khabib's dad saying is, we love the kid because he's making us money and he's giving us a good belt contender. But on 6 days, I don't care who you are, you're coming up against somebody who's peaking where you're just going to be at your best, not close to peaking. He can peak for a little bit of time, but not for long. So, with everything in the fight, the takedowns are definitely going to be coming. Interesting, though, with Khabib, he's really hesitant. The more and more I watched footage on him, everyone kept saying, watch that T-Bow fight with Khabib. The T-Bow fight was takedown heavy for Gleason T-Bow. T-Bow had 3 takedowns, Khabib had 2, and T-Bow lost a split decision. T-Bow also threw heavy punches into a takedown, and I think that that's the way to really back up Khabib. He moves forward so much that he's one of those guys that we don't think he has a weakness because he's never moving backwards. Someone can start to get him moving backwards, this is a different fight. All of a sudden, Max Holloway has that potential. He's not going to knock you out with one punch, but he's going to hit you from angles that you don't see coming. Max Holloway is switching in brilliantly with both hands. He's doing Chavez-esque stuff where he's switching into a left jab into a right power shot, then off of that right power shot into a right jab, back into a left power body shot. I mean, beautiful 4 or 5 punch body combinations. We talk about it all the time
on the show. You know when Max Holloway draws the line on the
against Lamas, sure.
And we say it's a Max Holloway moment for other fighters to do it. The difference of like a Jason Knight doing it and Max Holloway doing it, watch both those in slow motion. Jason Knight gets hit with every shot he gives. Max Holloway doesn't get hit at all. He has such good head movement. It's unbelievable.
So that head movement is actually set up really well as well with Max Holloway with his actual straight defense. He turns on the dime really well. He has, I don't want to say Dominic Cruz-esque because his footwork's completely different, but it's that same tactic of pivoting out and moving to the outside. And he's done it. I saw a couple other guys put some really good videos together as of short notice as well, showing like Max's game plan his entire career has been staying on the outside, picking people apart on the ground. He's nasty, but he can really fight takedowns really well. Hasn't been taken down in how many years, Max Holloway? 5 years?
4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years? And these are top level contenders, Max Holloway. Wrestlers he's fighting those takedowns against. Max Holloway has a good whizzer, but even in his takedown defense when he's on the cage, what really is good and what really benefits Max in general, he fights the free hand. And out of AKA, somebody was profiling really well. I think it was BJJ Scout. How all AKA guys underhook. Daniel Cormier does it. Rockhold does it. They all underhook against the cage and punch with the free hand. You'll see Khabib do it on stop, and he'll just do that all fight long. And or Khabib will grab the hand, and then you can control to where you want to get the people. And Max Holloway, on any fighter who's ever tried this, is already fighting that free hand because that's the key to the position. Get that free hand away, you'll be able to position out, get away. This is going to be a movement-based fight. I feel like Max needs to get on his bike a little bit and that Khabib blow his wad more than anything. And Max has all that potential. I really like Max in this fight. I would like him more if he had 2-3 months to get ready for it. That type of short notice. 6 days is just a little much for me. I'm going to go with Khabib. I don't think that it's that much of a heavy favorite, but I think it can turn into a boring wrist control over the side of the back and just ground and pound for all 4 fights. Max is going to never quit in there. He's not going to be put out. This isn't going to be a finish. If anything, the finish I got for Max. If it's a decision, it's probably going Khabib. I got Khabib controlling this 4 or 5 rounds. I'm going to put them both on there because Max has a shot. I don't think the 4-1 underdog is right at all. Max has a real shot here. It's that short notice.
Do you think
really
Max
puts it in
Holloway could
jeopardy.
beat Pat Healy?
Yes.
Do you think Max Holloway could beat Rafael dos Anjos at 155? That Rafael dos Anjos who was at the end, it was after USADA, but before he was at 170.
Yeah, that's a close one, but I can see Max winning that. Yep.
Do you think he could beat Horcher?
Yes.
Do you think he could beat Michael Johnson?
Yes.
Do you think he could beat Edson Barboza?
That's a tough one. Yeah, I think Max can get that just because Barbosa tends
Do
to
you
break a
think
little
Max
bit.
could beat Tony Ferguson?
I don't know about that one. I can't wait for that to happen. That's such a fun fight that I didn't even have on my radar because there's so much other stuff going on, but eventually it was going to happen.
If he wins,
I can't wait. Yeah.
their fight. Whoever wins this fight,
Oh, yeah.
fighting Tony next.
And I'm happy to see either one of them.
Unless Connor, who knows what he does, but I don't even want to talk about
Get
him anymore
McNuggets in
the
there.
division.
Let's do them. Get McNuggets in
Yeah.
there. I don't care.
So, Max versus Tony intrigues the fuck out of us too.
All of them. All of them. All of them. Throw them in a battle royale. Chairs included. All in the
If
octagon.
Michael Bisping can Bisping, Max Holloway can Bisping. Another.
I love you, Bisbee.
I'm not saying. Well, Bisping came in on a week's notice and knocked out the
Rock
freaking
hold?
dude. So
Good call.
I do think it's a blessed era. I like the whole timing of the story. I like how the Edgar fight just happened to fall off with Frankie Edgar. And Edgar, I like that Ortega built a little bit of shine, even though it broke my heart somewhat. I do like the Ortega Holloway steam. If any guy can defend and will defend 2 belts, it's Max Holloway. I think it's a beautiful story. I love the UFC going into Hawaii. It just builds that much more momentum on the fight that, the main event of that's going to be the one I predicted, BJ Penn versus Artem Lobov. And I think this is everything for the story. I don't think it hurts Khabib. I think Khabib is to wrestling what Maya is to, he's still going to destroy a whole bunch of other people. I think Max can knock out Khabib. I think he has more punching power. He's going to be in a different set of shoes with even more power at 155. It's not going to be quite the cut he's used to making. Yeah, I would like to see a full camp. I would love that.
Sure.
But we also see just as many times that guys can't peak for too long. They can't plateau for too long.
It's true.
And Khabib, before the last 2 fights, he was fighting once every 3 years, like really sporadically. So I feel like he has been peaking too long. I feel like he's put in gruesome takedown after takedown, a heavy fight with Edson Barboza. Max Holloway is tricky. He's a tricky guy, and he has power in his punches. I think he has good head movement. I think he's a smart fighter. I think he has the better ring IQ compared to Khabib in there. I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's intrigued by the puzzle. I think for real, he considers Khabib the best, and he wants the best because he's blessed. I do think he sees it, and I do like how Khabib said, "Oh, you think I'm the best, but you think you can beat me? Hell yeah, baby!"
I was about to say, I
baby!
love it. And I love how Max Holloway on Embeddeds and everything has been saying, just like, I'm not going to come to a fight if I don't think I can't win. Like, you're stupid. Why would I come into a fight thinking I can't win? Hell yeah, I can beat him. I can beat anybody. And I love that mentality, and that's what takes guys to the next level. Khabib's in that same boat. This is still such an interesting matchup.
This is a closer fight than anybody else thinks. I know everybody has Khabib.
That's what I was saying.
I think
exactly
this is
what I was
another
saying.
coin flip of a fight.
Agreed.
I think
Well,
it's going to be a dirty
there.
split. I think it's going to come down to it. I have a question. Like, Khabib might get 15 takedowns in 2 rounds. But Max will figure it out. I think his cardio is going to be better than Khabib's. Yeah. I got Holloway by a decision.
Woo!
And I also think no one's a champ here. There isn't you have to be the champ, you have to beat the champ.
Yeah, this is just a fight.
It's just to be the best, you have to beat the best.
So
it's whether or not you think the best is blessed.
Khabib is the minus 470 favorite against plus 375 for Max Holloway. I think there's value on Holloway there. It should be
I do too.
maybe because of the short notice, minus 180, minus 150 for Khabib. It's way closer than that. Way too blown up. But I also thought that Tony Ferguson line was way too blown up, and I was putting all sorts of money on that. I got to get all that money back eventually, and I said it. Oh, we don't want you to put all your money in these bets.
There's a fear behind Khabib, but look what the AKA guys do. They put a fear behind all of them. They're such a tight squad. If you ask any of them who they think the best guy in any division is, it's their guy. It's their guy. Listen to DC talk about Luke Rockhold and question of whether or not you still feel that way about Luke Rockhold. Even though when he, at certain times when he was saying it. So I friggin' dig Khabib, but I think Max is going to hurt Khabib in a different way. Every other fighter that's gone in there, at least for the last 4 fights, timid as hell. Timid as hell. We don't see the real them in the octagon because they're so worried about that takedown. You're not going to see that with Max.
So, this is definitely somewhere you could make money. I feel like we're both saying a decision.
Khabib decision, but I feel
right.
Holloway. I think.
But what I think that we can gather from this, regardless, is that there's a prop bet to be made in a decision more than a finish.
And I trust the fighter's words. And Khabib said it himself. You should be scared. You're the one that's going to be locked in that octagon with me for 5 rounds.
I love it.
He said it. 5 rounds. He didn't say you should be scared. You're the one that's going to get knocked out by me, finished by me, submitted by me, nothing. Just locked in the octagon with me for 5 rounds.
Also, the Draftkings lines didn't change. Khabib stayed at 9,100 against the 7,100 for Max Holloway. So, it was going to be the exact same line they were giving to Tony Ferguson on Draftkings. I'm sure with their algorithms, they couldn't have really changed much on it.
So, do we have a Leslie Smith underdog pick?
For the entire night.
The entire night. Well, who is our UFC 223 Leslie
We
Smith
had a couple
underdog?
on the underdog. We had Felice Herring was a prime suspect. We also ended up having, let me see the lines. Who else did we have? Felice Herring.
Someone on the main card, too, I think.
Dunham. No, he's the favorite.
No, just...
Lobov?
No. Did we want to make Artem our Leslie Smith underdog?
No, I think I'm more comfortable with Felice.
Felice I like, but I think there's somebody else that's fighting...
Grutzmacher? You were like a Grutzmacher?
I switched
no,
to
you were like against Lozon.
I'm going back and forth on that one too because I'm worried
it's
about
so
Lozon's
close.
chance.
Exactly, right?
The one I like... Why don't I just open my card? Dismiss. Tapology. Dismiss. Fight card. 13 of 13 picked. I like to see that. Didn't we agree on Carnero beating Qatar?
We did like that.
I like Carnero, and I like Felice Herring. I like putting Felice.
I think Felice is the easy one.
It's been a while since we had a Leslie Smith underdog pick as a woman, too.
I agree against KK. That's a fun fight. That's a fight that could highlight an entire fight card on a Fight Pass.
Every single card could be a coin flip and could be a highlight of something on its own right. Every single one. It's
everything minus money, minus, and they open there, right?
Friggin' does.
And so Dana White's definitely had good attitude about this because, again, you got a ton of fights that you're going to make money on. You got to be watching whatever way you can. If you're watching them, you're watching us. You're making some money. Subscribe where you can
everywhere,
on Twitter.
Lesbo and the Bean, lesboandthebean.com, Lesbo and the Bean on Twitter, lesboandthebean@gmail. Thank you so much. We like your listens and likes.
Lesbo and the Bean!
So, who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who was the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick? Everybody say you mean Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that out there living they dream? Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that still smoking all the green? Lesbo and the Bean. Come on y'all, let me hear you scream. Lesbo and the Bean.